As you work for the McKinseys of the world, also see how you can work with the local government school in your area, work with the orphanage. And when I say work with the orphanage, I'm not saying just look at it from, donating money or, just spending your time. If you really think about it, you can make it easier for them if you apply your real world skills to help solve some of their problems. So at the end of the day, everybody is a career coach, because each and every career that we know, whether it's a carpenter, plumber, HR practitioner, career coach, we're all solving real world problems. So we can put our strengths to use and solve real world problems. I think nothing is impossible. Everything is possible.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the People Hum interview series. This is your host Aishwarya Jain at People Hum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM, that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and channel that receives more than 400,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. We have with us today Shravan Shetty. Shravan has been working as a career coach, speaker, and consultant for the past 10 years. His work has ranged across several key high impact projects. He holds expertise in career coaching, executive coaching, consulting, happiness coaching, and a lot more. We're thrilled to get into conversation with you about it, Shravan. Welcome to People Hum.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Thank you for having me on your program. It's a
Thank you
pleasure
so
to
much,
be here.
Shravan. So, Shravan, let's begin a little bit. Let's go back into history. Let's time travel a little bit. I know you've had so many accolades under your belt. You've been a career coach, speaker, consultant. You've come across a variety of leaders. So, what I want to ask you is that a lot of our audience must be definitely interested in knowing this. When do you think is the right time to approach a career coach, a speaker, or a consultant?
So definitely, the best time to approach a career coach is before the going gets tough, before you're actually in a sticky situation. Of course, that being said, uh, career coaches are there for you in all seasons, under the sun and out of the sun. So you can approach a career coach at any time. One of the founders of Make My Trip said that, the enemy of great is good. So when the going is good, also it's a great idea for you to get in touch with a career coach, because he or she can really help you leverage your strengths to the optimal level.
Right. So in your career also, have you seen, a lot of leaders kind of struggling to go through their challenges, and then finally, they come there at a level where they're almost giving up, and that's when they're approaching, a coach or a consultant. Do you think they should have done it much before that?
Absolutely. And I'm seeing this trend not just in the corporate sector, not just with startups, even in the social sector. So, a lot of times, if you are a leader who's self made and you've risen to the top, we forget sometimes that there were mentors along the way. And we kind of also believe that, it's the ego gets in the way. We say that ego is the enemy at times. And we choose to, not take help or advice from people whom we could, go to. So when we say career coach, I would like to broaden the expansion and say it's not just somebody who's certified as a career coach or certified as a mentor. It could be somebody within the circle or the zone of the person or the individual who could have much more experience. Either it could be specialist skills, it could be sector based skills, it could be overall understanding of the journey of your organization. So I would broaden it to say it could be a consultant, it could be a thought leader, it could be a coach.
Right, absolutely. So, of course, we are in uncertain, strange times. I think a lot of leaders have been through a lot. They've been grappling with challenges. And now I think, through some cadence, they've arrived at a little bit of a momentum. Things are kind of like working back to normal. But through this whole pandemic period, what have you seen? What have you kind of experienced as a coach, as a consultant?
So the first thing, of course, is that nothing is constant, because we've seen whether it's the stock market, whether it is the economy, it's almost been like we take one step forward and two steps back. So just towards the end of the year, when everything was set to recover and people were thinking that we are back to being normal and probably a vaccine's around the corner, we suddenly heard about the UK strain, and again people are again fearful. So I think from a lens of optimism, when we look at it, we can apply what Warren Buffett says, that be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. So I have seen a lot of leaders capitalize on opportunities for their organizations during this pandemic and shift gears, right? Not not to hold back in terms of optimistic exploration as against pessimistic looking at let me conserve my resources, not just financially, because see, we all understand that we have to be conservative when it comes to money in these times as organization leaders. However, within the organization you have people, right, who are your greatest strength, and a lot of times resource myopia kicks in when fear is there. And we need to understand that resources are there, and not everything needs money for you to put out there, and there are options, right? For example, I think one of the key things is to embrace technology, right? Whether it is in the area of HR, whether it is in the area of your operations, it's crucial to understand that you can't be running the show without technology, especially when remote working is what is required, as a critical requirement right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really true. So my follow-up question to that is, what sort of a role have you seen technology play in all of this? Now I know that it's been a connecting bridge for a lot of conversations for remote working, but have you also seen kind of downsides to, this whole scenario?
So I think definitely when we look at a world where people are fearful of interacting with each other face to face, technology comes into the picture. I think the key here is that whether it is learning, whether it is working efficiency, it's important for organizations to understand that technology and social media are not necessarily one and the same thing. I think we are also at a point where we are confusing the rampant development of social media and blaming technology overall for the ills of social media being a distraction, leading to a lot of reduction in productivity on the overall. But in reality, if you look at it at the workplace, technology, right? I'm sure you would agree with me as an organization which is into technology and assessments, that it becomes a great enabler for whether it's individuals such as me who are consultants who might use this for client organizations, or internally for small to medium or even large organizations to pay as you go, right? You're not in this era which is 10 years ago, that if you want to use a tool you have to pay it for 0 to 500 people. Those days are gone, right? And I think I think it's a great opportunity. The downside, of course, is that productivity actually seems to have been improving in this era, in this world, as against when people are at the workplace, because there are no distractions, no tea breaks, no long lunch breaks. So the downside is that people are actually having to look at their mediocrity, working out of their homes and saying, now I've got too much work, which kind of means that you are not probably working at optimal pace earlier when you were working at the workplace. Of course, you don't have to get stuck in traffic jams, and
Yeah.
uh, so I think that's something which is my observation.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting because typically we also see, Zoom fatigue is there, and then people are just exhausted talking to each other, the entire day, just trying to stay connected. And it's important to know that social media is different from technology. So that was quite enlightening. But shifting gears a little bit, right? So, Shravan, you've seen that probably now employment is kind of taking a turn. It's very different. Now the job markets are opening up. There's a lot of, there is umpteen talent out there. So, when we talk about employability skills, right? Do you think that there are a certain set of values that one must highlight now as compared to probably the pre-pandemic era. And if you could probably shed some light on these values, or what could be used to now upskill ourselves or professionals, that would really be great.
Great. Thank you for the question, Aishwarya. Let me get straight into that question and say, let's look at the world in terms of two sets of people: people who are employed, who are continue to be employed during the pandemic, and the other set of people who probably lost jobs or are on pay cuts. So the question comes down to, when you are saying that you are employable, is how effectively do you manage your time, right? Considering that the pandemic, as much as it created adversity in people's work life, it also created an opportunity for more time. And in that time, how effectively did you put your time to use? Did you learn a new skill? Did you strengthen a skill which was already there? So when we look at employability skills overall, I would say remote working proficiency. And if you can demonstrate that in the conversations that you have with prospective employers, that's one for sure. Second is self management without supervision. I think that's really a key employability trait, irrespective of whether you're starting out in your career or you're uh, somebody with 10 years of experience or 20 years of experience. What did you do during the time that you had uh, during the lockdown? Did you just while it away, or did you use it effectively to build and showcase proof of concept of application of solving real world problems at your workplace or in your area of work? So I think these would be, something which is crucial in terms of an outlook. The last point I would say is that, in the world of skilling, we talk about I-shaped people, T-shaped people. So I'm sure your audience knows about this, but just for the ones who probably know this but don't know it in this specific framework, T-shaped skills are T-shaped people are people who once when we start a career, we might be very good at SAP, or we might be very good at Excel, and you might be good at accounting, and there's a single skill because you start your career focusing on a certain area. But as you grow, you have an opportunity to widen your skills and deepen your skills. So that's why T-shaped, right? And this is something people can just Google to get to know more about. So I think it's important for us to not dwell from a self-congratulatory perspective that I'm good at this, and the world should recognize this and give me an opportunity. So I feel that a lot of times in this year that's gone by, a lot of people, youngsters and the people who are experienced, whom I've interacted with in my career coaching practice, I found that there are two sets of people: people who dwell on their ego, saying I am good and the world should hire me, and they refuse to accept that they are like an ostrich who's put its head in the sand, and the world really doesn't care how good you think you are, as long as you can connect to what you can do for them. How can you use your skills to help solve problems for my organization or for the stakeholders that I'm working with? So I think it's important that people continue to build their skills both in terms of depth and width, and not dwell on the fact that I'm good at ABC.
Yeah, I think those were lovely points, Shravan, actually. And, to pick on the last bit, that I think dissolving your ego for the bigger purpose is going to be important, because employers might not really have the kind of patience they had, because, they will have a lot of options. So I think that's great piece of advice. And of course, I mean, none of us have a crystal ball, but Shravan, since you're an expert, do you have, and you must have thought of it, what do you think is the future of career coaching? And where is it headed in terms of the post pandemic workplace? How do you kind of see it all fit in?
So I think the future of career coaching, pretty much like careers at workplaces, is that we have to increasingly focus on viewing what we do as an individual, as a career coach, or as somebody who's building their own careers, as a portfolio, right? So I'm sure all of us right now are looking at our investments, and each time the stock market goes up or the government changes the PPF interest rates or bank interest rates, we are thinking, okay, how am I going to manage liquidity in short term, mid term, long term, right? So you're saying, okay, I have a recurring deposit, I have mutual funds which are ELSS. I have a 20-year plan, investment plan. So I think it's also important for people to apply critical thinking, reframing the work that you're doing and visualize it as a career portfolio, and how you've been applying the core skills that you have for different stakeholders. So I think, and a great enabler for this would be partner organizations like you, who would have technology assessments. Especially, I'm speaking from the viewpoint of a career coach, right? So the more we embrace technology, and we can not only use it in terms of managing our work, but also to self quantify. It's important to also qualitatively and quantitatively continuing to rethink and reframe how we can do things differently. So, as a career coach, I was somebody, I can tell you very honestly, with all vulnerability, that I would never take a career coaching assignment digitally. It's only in the pandemic that I actually got onto Zoom calls and started doing career coaching on Zoom calls. That's a paradigm shift for me. I do still know career coaches who refuse to do that even now. So times change, we have to change with times. So I think it's crucial. So if I had a crystal ball, I would say that embrace technology. Don't confuse technology with social media. I know I'm repeating it again. Operate on your strengths, and I would also focus on saying that the world is interconnected. Don't say that you're going to work with only people in Bangalore. I will work with only one set of stakeholders. Be open to exploring partnerships and probabilities, because I think one thing is that we have realized that the world is more interconnected. uh, and I think it's important for both career coaches and for individuals to volunteer their skills, right? And not do everything for money, saying sirf paisa milega to main ye karunga, I'll do only this. I think it's important to do things from a sense of larger purpose. The Stoics, in Roman, in philosophy, they used to believe in the highest good. What is the highest good that we can create with the opportunity of life that we have, right? On one hand, if there was a king and a leader, and there would be thousands of people cheering for him, they say in those olden ages they would have a slave who would whisper into his ears, "Memento mori," which would say, "You too are mortal," right? So it's important for us to remember that yes, the pandemic has made us realize that we are mortal, but that shouldn't bring out the worst in us and make us self-centered. I think it's a great opportunity for us as a human race, as workplace organizations, to come together to do what is for the greater good. One key observation is that till the pandemic happened, nobody understood the voice of people who were disabled, who found it difficult to come to the workplace, and said that, let us work from home, let us work from home. Today, the entire world is working from home, and earlier they said, no, how is that possible? It's not going to be productive, it doesn't work. But when the crisis came on to all of us, we didn't see we didn't really see that what didn't work before, right? We went into it and embraced it. So if we can build a more inclusive world, and I think it's a great opportunity to also ensure that the workforce, to balance out the gender equation, right? It's even women who are working mothers ask for more flexibility, right? And today it's a great opportunity, to look into this crystal ball and look at a better world, a much better world for everybody, a more inclusive world. So that's what I would like to say. So we can put our strengths to work to make this world a better place, more productive, but more balanced as well.
Yeah, that's really amazing, Shravan. I think I completely agree with you. I have personally also seen a lot more empathy from leaders during this time. I think there have been, relationships and bonds between bosses and their employees kind of strengthened during this time. So in a way, it definitely has brought people, closer than before. And I think slowly we are all realizing that, the pandemic is sort of a marathon, not a sprint anymore. So
Absolutely.
it's kind of imperative now to embrace technology. Otherwise, it will become really hard to survive. So touching on human resources a little bit also, right, Shravan? So What do you think? I think human resources suddenly got a lot of limelight during this period, and eventually and gradually, I think businesses are looking at HR more as a strong pillar of their organizations rather than a side function, which was kind of the viewpoint for a lot of decades. So, have you also seen that shift? And what is your viewpoint on the role of HR now?
So I think the role of HR now is clearly moving from a cost function to more of a unifying function, because it is in crisis that leadership comes to the fore. And HR is mostly like an elephant which doesn't realize its inherent strength. So I feel a lot of HR practitioners believe that it's only revenue functions which can dictate the course. But I've seen in strong organizations which work on their strengths, HR comes to the fore. And it's not always because of the fact that the organizations gives them the power, gives them the power and says, like the olden ages where God appears and says tatastu and gives them a boon. It is more of the HR practitioner realizing the strengths of the domain itself and how holistically the organization, if it has to grow, it has to rely on HR, because I think HR is the lever through which the world can truly be changed by organizations which want to shift themselves onto a progressive holistic pathway. So I think you've hit the nail on the head. Absolutely, HR is a strong pillar, and I think we also, as HR practitioners, should amplify that voice, right? So if we don't say yes, we can do it, nobody is going to say yes. HR take the mantle of leadership and get this done for us.
Yeah.
And I think we have enough proof around the world. And I'm sure I went through the peopleHum, videos, which is available and accessed it. Great insights from a lot of great leaders that you have covered. So it all adds up, and I think the key word is perspective, right? It's important for us to shift our perspectives when adversity hits, and to also have the bird's eye view and also have a closer view, right? So it really helps us if we can, as HR practitioners, keep testing our perspective and aligning it to the real world.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think a lot of organizations are finally looking at HR in the right light. So that's kind of really optimistic. I think HR has an optimistic future too. So that's amazing. So I think lastly, what I want to ask you, Shravan, is what advice would you have to, people who are just about to step into consulting, career coaching, or people who are switching from their corporate jobs to consulting and coaching?
So my advice would be observe, apprentice, volunteer your time, energy, and resources, collaborate, work, take your work not just into the area which you want to work with. So if you're a consultant, and don't focus on just working for the McKinsey of the world. As you work for the McKinseys of the world, also see how you can work with the local government school in your area, work with the orphanage. And when I say work with the orphanage, I'm not saying just look at it from donating money or just spending your time. If you really think about it, you can make it easier for them if you apply your real world skills to help solve some of their problems. So at the end of the day, everybody is a career coach, because each and every career that we know, whether it's a carpenter, plumber, HR practitioner, career coach, we're all solving real world problems. So we can put our strengths to use and solve real world problems. I think nothing is impossible. Everything is possible.
Definitely, definitely. That is, I think, Shravan, I've had like thorough fun with this conversation, and I think our audience will definitely learn a lot from this. You're a I think, great speaker, great orator, and it's kind of wonderful to listen to your insights. So thank you so much for coming onto our show.
Pleasure, Aishwarya. Thank you for facilitating this really wonderful conversation. I've had great fun as well.
Thank you so much. Take care, Shravan.
You too.